Go.
Hi, I'm Tony Guzzi. I'm the Vice President for Preservation here at the Hermitage. We are standing outside the Hermitage Church today for a virtual visit. During these challenging times when we have a little bit more time on our hands and maybe time to stop and slow down and look at some of the historic buildings, maybe in Nashville or wherever you're at. If you take some time and look at buildings a little closer, you'll see things about their history that you might not normally see. And the Hermitage Church is a great building for reading it like a book. All you have to do is look at its brickwork and you can see all the various things that have happened to it over time. Andrew Jackson and the Hermitage community built the church in 1823 and it was served as a meeting house and as a church for priests, or not for priests, but for ministers who were traveling through the area. And the original name of the church was Ephesians Church, and it wasn't associated with any denomination. And in its original configuration, the doors of the church were actually on the east side. That's one of the first things that we can see in the brickwork here. If you look here at the wall, you can see the scars from where the original doors were. In the early version of the church, there weren't pews. There were just benches raised, aligned in a semicircle, and you walked in from the east side here. In 1839, after Jackson had served 2 terms as president, he came back to the Hermitage, and he and his neighbors funded a remodeling of the church to make it look a little bit more like other churches in the area. In most churches, the doors actually were on the front side, or the gable end of the building. And so they closed in these 2 doors in 1839 and moved the new doors to the front end of the building. Jackson had joined this church in 1838. He had always promised Rachel Jackson that when he was free of political entanglements, that he would join a church. And so this is where he joined. And if you all want to look at our Facebook page, we'll have a question up and have you guess which denomination Jackson joined. And now we're going to move to the front of the building and look at where the doors were moved to. So here you can see where the doors are. They're now on the south end of the building. And up above that doorway, you can see the jack arches from where the original windows were on this side of the building. So, of course, when they put in the doors, they closed in those windows. After Jackson remodeled it in 1839, very little happened to the church after Jackson passed away. This area went through the Civil War and really didn't have any money to do anything in terms of restoration work or renovations. But by 1890, the area had become more financially settled again, and the local community, who was still meeting here in this church, decided to do some renovations. One of the things that they did is they made all of the windows taller. At one point, the wooden lintels that were right over the door, and a lintel is basically a beam over a door or a window that carries the weight of the wall above it. And this wooden lintel had rotted out, and so the church had to replace it with a new brick lintel, and that actually has a steel plate over the top of it that helps carry the weight. And so that work was done probably around 1890. And you can see right above the door where the lintel was, and you can see where all of the brick was affected when they took it out, and they had to repoint that because all of the mortar in the wall there is a different color. As we go back around here to this side, one of the other things I wanted to show you was that in the 1890 renovation, they had made all of the windows taller. Well, the church in 1965 burned, and it was completely gutted out by a fire. And so the congregation who owned the church still decided to sell it at that point to the Andrew Jackson Foundation. And the foundation restored the church, and one of the things that they did is they wanted it to look more like it did in Jackson's day. So those taller windows that they had put in 1838, in 1839, they reduced the height of the window again. And you can see evidence over here on the wall from where that happened. If you look above the windows, you can see that all the brickwork above the windows is different. It's different color, different mortar, and that's because they basically just put in the smaller windows and rebuilt the wall all the way back up. And so that's why you see a different color mortar there. So the Hermitage Church is just one example of how you can go and look at a historic building and see what's happened to it over time. Now, you may not be able to piece it all together without some history to back it up, but if you look at a building, you can see what's happened to it and look at differences in mortar color, look for closed-in openings, and that can tell you a little bit about the history of the building. So we hope you've enjoyed this virtual visit of the Hermitage Church's exterior, and please visit our Facebook page to keep updated about what's going on at the Hermitage and how you can support us in this time. So thank you.